In the golden city of Makuru, the streets were always full of people and noise. Cars honked, sellers shouted, and children ran after one another with laughter. In a quiet corner of the city stood a big house made of shining white stone. Inside lived Mama Nuru and her only son, Baraka. Baraka had once been full of life. He was young, tall, and strong. He had built a big company and helped many people. Everyone in Makuru knew his name. But 2 years ago everything changed. A terrible accident took away his sight. Since that day, darkness became his world. He stopped smiling. He stopped going out. He trusted no one. Many women came to him, pretending to care, but they only wanted his money. Some stayed for a few days, some for a few weeks, and then they left when they realized he would not give them what they wanted. Baraka's heart turned cold. Mama Nuru watched her son with sadness every day. She had gray hair now, and her hands trembled when she poured tea, but her heart was strong. She loved her son more than anything in the world. Every night she prayed, asking God to bring someone who could love Baraka truly, not for his money, not for his house, but for his heart. One evening, while sitting by the window, Mama Nuru looked at her son. He sat in silence, listening to the sound of rain. She thought, what is the use of all this wealth if my son is alone? Tears filled her eyes. She walked to her small room, knelt down, and whispered, if love won't find my son, then I will find love for him. That night she made a plan. She took an old bag from the corner of her wardrobe and filled it with torn clothes. She wrapped her head in a dirty scarf, rubbed dust on her face, and looked at herself in the mirror. The proud mother of a billionaire now looked like a tired beggar. Her heart beat fast, but she smiled. Let the world see me as poor, she said softly, because only the poor can see truth. The next morning she left her house before sunrise. She walked slowly to the city market, where the smell of roasted maize and ripe mangoes filled the air. She sat beside a broken wall, pretending to be hungry and weak. People passed her without looking. Some turned their faces away. Others threw angry words at her. Old woman, move away from the road. Go beg somewhere else. Mama Nuru stayed silent. She watched their faces carefully. So many people, yet so little kindness, she thought sadly. Hours passed before a gentle voice broke the noise around her. Grandmother, are you hungry? Mama Nuru looked up and saw a young woman with a tray of maize on her head. The woman smiled kindly and handed her a cob of maize. Take this, she said. You can pay me another day if you wish. Mama Nuru smiled weakly. Thank you, my child. What is your name? The young woman wiped sweat from her forehead. My name is Asha, she said. I sell maize here every day. Mama Nuru nodded. She watched as Asha went back to her work, calling out to customers with a cheerful voice. Even when people ignored her, she never frowned. Her kindness shone like sunlight in the dusty market. Every day after that, Mama Nuru went to the same spot. Asha always shared food with her, sometimes maize, sometimes a cup of porridge. When Mama Nuru pretended to fall sick one afternoon, Asha stayed by her side, fanning her gently. You must rest, grandmother, she said. The streets are hard for you. Mama Nuru smiled secretly. This girl's heart is pure, she thought. She was beginning to believe that her long search might soon end. One rainy evening, as the market began to close, Mama Nuru spoke to Asha. Child, I know of a blind man who needs help. He has little money to pay, but he is kind and honest. Would you work for him? Asha wiped her hands and said, If he is good, I will help. I don't work for money alone. I just want peace. Mama Nuru's eyes filled with tears. She touched Asha's hand and whispered, You remind me of someone I once knew, someone with a clean heart. As she walked home that night, her steps were light even though her feet were tired. For the first time in years she felt hope. Maybe, just maybe, she had found the one person who could bring light back into her son's dark world. When she reached home, Baraka was sitting near the window, listening to the sound of the rain again. He turned his head as she entered. Mother, you're late. Where have you been? Mama Nuru smiled softly. I was walking my son. Sometimes we must walk far to find what is missing. Baraka didn't ask more. He only nodded and turned his face toward the rain. But deep inside, Mama Nuru's heart was beating with a new secret, a secret plan that could change her son's life forever. She looked at him, sitting there in quiet darkness, and whispered in her heart, My dear Baraka, I will not rest until you find love that sees beyond your blindness. Outside, the rain fell harder, washing the streets clean. Mama Nuru closed her eyes and smiled. The journey had just begun. The morning sun rose slowly over the city of Makuru, painting the sky in soft orange light. Mama Nuru woke up early, her old bones aching from the hard floor she slept on the night before. She wrapped her torn shawl tightly around her shoulders and picked up her walking stick. Her plan was still in motion. She had to keep pretending to be a poor beggar until she was sure she had found a woman who could truly love her blind son, Baraka. She walked to the busy market and sat beside the gate where people always rushed in and out. The air was full of sounds, sellers calling out their goods, chickens clucking, and motorbikes passing by with loud horns. The smell of roasted maize and fried fish mixed with dust and sweat. Mama Nuru sat quietly, holding out her hand, hoping to see kindness in someone's eyes. Most people passed by without looking at her. Some whispered rude words. "Old woman, go to the shelter," one man said. "You're blocking the road," another woman complained. A few threw small coins her way but did not stop to speak. Mama Nuru's heart felt heavy. She had lived a full life, but it still hurt to be treated as nothing. But then came a soft voice, like a cool wind in the heat of the day. "Grandmother, you look tired. Have you eaten?" Mama Nuru looked up and saw a young woman standing in front of her. She had dark, kind eyes and carried a basket of roasted maize on her head. Her face was sweaty, her dress old, but her smile was warm. The young woman took a piece of maize and placed it gently in Mama Nuru's hands. "Here," she said. "You can eat this. Don't worry about the money." Mama Nuru smiled. "Thank you, my child. What is your name?" "My name is Asha," the young woman said. "I sell maize here every day. It is not much, but it helps me live." She gave a small laugh, then added, "And maybe it helps others too." Asha waved goodbye and went back to her stall. Mama Nuru watched her for a long time. There was something pure about the girl, a light in her that no hardship could hide. The next day Mama Nuru returned to the same spot. The same thing happened, people ignored her and some even threw dust at her feet. But Asha came again. She brought another piece of maize and a small cup of water. "You should drink something, grandmother," she said kindly. "The sun is too strong today." Each day Asha showed the same kindness. Sometimes she shared food even when she had very little for herself. Sometimes she sat beside Mama Nuru for a short rest, talking about her dreams. She told stories about her small house made of mud, her younger brother who was still in school, and how she wished for a better life but never lost hope. Mama Nuru listened carefully. This girl was not like the others she had met before. There was no greed in her voice, no pride in her eyes. Just a quiet strength and a gentle soul. Still, Mama Nuru wanted to be sure. One morning she decided to test Asha's heart. She came to the market and sat down as usual, but after a while she began to cough and groan softly. She held her chest and pretended to be weak and dizzy. People looked at her but kept walking. No one stopped. Then Asha saw her. Without thinking twice, she dropped her maize basket and ran to her side. "Grandmother, what's wrong?" she cried. She held Mama Nuru's shoulders and tried to lift her gently. "Don't worry, I'm here." Mama Nuru whispered weakly, "Child? I can't breathe well." Asha placed her hand on Mama Nuru's back and rubbed it gently. "You must rest," she said. "You sit here in the heat all day. Wait, I'll get you some water." She ran off quickly and came back with a cup of cool water from a nearby stall. She helped Mama Nuru drink, then fanned her with a piece of cardboard. Hours passed and Asha stayed with her, even though it meant losing her day's earnings. Her basket of maize grew cold, but she did not care. When someone offered to buy some, she shook her head. "Not now," she said. "My grandmother is sick. I must stay." Mama Nuru's eyes filled with tears. She wanted to tell Asha the truth right there, that she was not really poor, that she was testing her kindness, but she held herself back. She needed to be sure this was real compassion, not pity. When evening came, Mama Nuru finally sat up and smiled faintly. "I feel better now, my child. You have done more for me than anyone else has in years." Asha smiled and said softly, "You don't have to thank me, grandmother. If we don't care for one another, what kind of people are we?" Her words touched Mama Nuru deeply. She could see that this young woman's goodness came from her heart, not her lips. The next day, Asha returned to find Mama Nuru already sitting at the gate. She looked healthier. "You are back, grandmother," Asha said happily. "Yes, my child," Mama Nuru said. "I wanted to see your smile again." They laughed together, and for the first time in a long while, Mama Nuru felt a sense of peace. The world still had good hearts, and one of them sat right beside her. As the sun went down that evening, Mama Nuru whispered a quiet prayer of thanks. She knew now that her disguise had led her to someone special. She did not know how Asha would react when she learned the truth, but she was sure of one thing. This young woman had a heart pure enough to heal her son's broken spirit. The market slowly emptied. Asha picked up her basket, waved and said, "See you tomorrow, grandmother." Mama Nuru watched her walk away through the fading light, her figure small but shining like a spark in the darkness. She smiled to herself and murmured, "Yes, tomorrow. And soon you will meet my Baraka." She rose slowly, her old legs trembling, but her heart was strong. She had found what she was looking for, a soul full of kindness, the kind that could bring light even to a blind man's world. Days passed and Mama Nuru watched Asha with quiet pride. The young woman's kindness had proved true, and Mama Nuru's heart was full of hope. She had found the one person who might bring her son back to life, not through wealth but through warmth. Now she needed to bring them together. One morning as Asha packed her roasted maize at the market, Mama Nuru walked up slowly with her stick. "My child," she said softly, "I know a man who needs help. He is blind and lives alone. He cannot pay much but he is gentle and kind. He needs someone to read to him and help with small things." Asha looked thoughtful for a moment, then smiled. "If he needs help I will go," she said. "Money is not everything. Sometimes we help people just because it feels right." Mama Nuru smiled behind her scarf, hiding the truth. "You have a good heart," she said. "Come tomorrow morning. I will take you to his home." The next day, Asha arrived early, wearing a clean dress and carrying a small bag. Mama Nuru led her through the quiet streets until they reached a large white house with iron gates. Asha stopped in surprise. "This man must be rich," she whispered. Mama Nuru chuckled softly. "He is, but he has known great sadness too. Remember, child, kindness is worth more than gold." When they entered the house, everything was silent. The air smelled of polished wood and flowers. Asha noticed that although the house was beautiful, it felt lonely, like a place that had forgotten laughter. In the sitting room, a man sat by the window facing the sunlight. His eyes were closed and his hands rested on a cane. That was Baraka. His face was calm but carried the weight of pain and emptiness. Mama Nuru walked over to him and spoke gently. "My son, I have brought someone who can help you. Her name is Asha." Baraka turned his head slightly. His voice was deep but quiet. "You did not have to, mother. I need no helper." Asha stepped forward and said softly, "Sir, I will not disturb you. I can read to you, clean or cook. I only wish to be useful." There was something in her voice, simple, honest and calm. Baraka nodded slowly. "Very well. You may stay for a few days." From that day, Asha began working in Baraka's house. At first he hardly spoke to her. He gave short answers and often sat in silence. Asha did not mind. She cleaned, cooked simple meals and read aloud from his favorite books. Her voice was soft and full of life. Sometimes she made mistakes while reading and they both laughed quietly. She also loved to sing while she worked. Her songs were old village tunes, gentle, hopeful and full of joy. One afternoon as she sang in the kitchen, Baraka sat by the window listening. For the first time in years he felt peace. Her voice reminded him of sunlight, warm, steady and alive. Days turned into weeks. Asha brought life into the quiet home. She talked about the market, the noisy sellers, the funny children who chased each other, and the smell of roasted maize. Baraka found himself listening eagerly every time she spoke. Her stories painted pictures in his dark world. One day while they were sitting together, Baraka asked, "Asha, why are you so kind to everyone, even to strangers?" Asha smiled. "Because I have seen how it feels when people are not kind. When you live among the poor, you learn that even a smile can feed a hungry heart." Her words stayed with him. That night as he lay in bed, Baraka thought of her voice, her laughter, and her simple wisdom. For the first time since the accident, he slept peacefully. As weeks went by, Baraka began to change. He started smiling more and asking Asha to read for longer. He even laughed sometimes, surprising Mama Nuru, who pretended to be just a servant. She watched quietly, her heart swelling with joy. The woman she had chosen was truly healing her son's heart. One afternoon, when rain poured outside, Asha sat near Baraka, reading a story aloud. When she stopped, he said, "You have brought light to my home, Asha. I cannot see your face but I can see your heart." Asha blushed and looked down. "And you, sir, have taught me patience. I thought blindness meant weakness but now I see that strength comes from the heart." Baraka smiled, a small but real smile. "Then maybe we are both learning," he said quietly. After she left that evening, Mama Nuru walked in and sat beside her son. "You seem happier these days," she said. Baraka nodded. "There is something about her, mother. When she speaks, I forget the darkness." Mama Nuru smiled secretly. Some people bring light just by being who they are. From that day, Asha became more than just a helper. She became a friend. She would bring flowers from the market and describe their colors to Baraka. She helped him walk in the garden, guiding his hand to feel the soft petals and the cool wind. Sometimes, when Baraka grew sad, missing the world he could no longer see, Asha would tell him, "The world is still beautiful even if you can't see it. You only need to feel it." One evening, while they sat on the veranda listening to the sound of crickets, Baraka said softly, "I used to think I had lost everything. But now, I think I've found something more important than sight." Asha looked at him with a gentle smile but said nothing. The silence between them was full of peace. Inside, behind the curtain, Mama Nuru watched them with tears in her eyes. Her plan had worked. The house that once echoed with sadness now had laughter, stories, and hope. Every night before sleeping, Mama Nuru thanked God for leading her to Asha. She knew that her son's heart was finally healing, and this time not because of money but because of love. The months went by like gentle wind, carrying quiet changes into Baraka's home. The house that once felt cold and lonely now had warmth. Every morning began with the sound of Asha's humming, and every evening ended with soft laughter. Baraka had learned to smile again. He no longer sat in darkness thinking about what he had lost. Instead, he listened to stories, to music, and to life. Mama Nuru watched all this from a distance. She pretended to be only an old helper in the house, sweeping floors, cooking, and giving small advice. But in her heart, she knew that her plan had worked better than she had ever dreamed. Her son's heart was alive again, and the woman who had made it possible had no idea that the poor beggar she once helped was standing before her every day. Asha and Baraka grew close in a quiet, honest way. They talked for hours about small things: the smell of rain, the sound of children in the street, the feel of warm sunlight on skin. Baraka often said, "I cannot see your face, Asha, but I know your voice is full of light." And she would laugh softly, saying, "Maybe that is enough. Some things are seen better with the heart." Their friendship soon turned into something deeper, though neither said it aloud. It showed in the way Baraka listened for her footsteps and the way Asha smiled every time she entered the room. Mama Nuru noticed this too. One afternoon, she sat on the veranda watching the two of them tend to the small garden. Asha guided Baraka's hand to touch the flowers and told him their colors: yellow like the sun, red like fire, white like peace. He smiled and said, "Then they must be beautiful." Asha looked at him and whispered, "They are." That night, Mama Nuru could not sleep. She lay in her bed thinking, the time has come. She deserves to know the truth. She had hidden her identity for long enough. Asha had proved her heart over and over again, through her kindness, her patience, and her love. The next evening, the three of them sat together in the living room. The lamps were lit, and a soft breeze came through the open windows. Baraka was sitting quietly, listening to the sound of Asha's voice as she read aloud from a book. Mama Nuru watched them for a moment and then took a deep breath. "My children," she said slowly, "there is something I must tell you both." Asha closed the book and looked at her with calm eyes. "What is it, Mama?" Mama Nuru's voice trembled a little. "Asha, the truth is, I'm not who you think I am. I'm not a beggar or a servant. I am Baraka's mother." The room fell silent. Even the wind seemed to stop for a moment. Asha blinked, unsure if she had heard correctly. "Baraka's mother?" she repeated softly. "Yes," Mama Nuru said. "Months ago, I went to the market dressed as a poor beggar. I wanted to see if there was still kindness in the world. My son had lost faith in people after his accident. I wanted to find someone who could love him not for his money, but for his heart. That is why I met you, Asha. You passed my test in every way." Asha's eyes widened, but there was no anger in her face. She was quiet for a while, then she said, "Mama, you did not need to test me. Kindness needs no test. I helped you because it was right." Her words were simple, but they touched the room like sunlight breaking through clouds. Mama Nuru's lips trembled as she tried to speak. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "You have the heart of an angel," she whispered. "I have lived many years, but I have never met someone like you." Baraka turned his face toward them, confused. "Mother, what is happening? What do you mean?" Mama Nuru took his hand gently. "My son, this young woman, Asha, she is the one who cared for me when I pretended to be poor. She fed me, she stayed with me when I was sick, and she never asked for anything. She did not know who I really was. She showed kindness to a stranger, and that is how I knew she could love you for who you are." Baraka's hand shook slightly. He turned his head toward Asha. "Is that true?" he asked softly. Asha nodded. "Yes, Baraka. I met Mama at the market. I never knew she was your mother. She told me about a blind man who needed help and I agreed to come. I only wanted to work honestly. I never expected any of this. Baraka smiled faintly. You see, Asha, even my mother had to disguise herself to find someone pure enough for me. Asha looked down shyly. I did not do anything special, she said. I only did what my heart told me to do. Mama Nuru wiped her eyes and smiled proudly. That is what makes you special, my dear. You did good when no one was watching. That is real goodness. Baraka reached out his hand toward Asha. She took it gently. He held it for a long time without speaking. Then he said, Asha, my world has been dark for so long. But when you came into it, I began to see again, not with my eyes but with my heart. Asha's eyes filled with tears but she smiled. Then maybe we both found what we were missing, she said softly. Mama Nuru watched them, her old heart full of peace. She had done what she set out to do. She had tested the world and found that true kindness still existed. Her son had found someone who could love him without seeing his riches or his blindness, only his soul. The room stayed quiet for a long time. Outside, the crickets began to sing, and the moonlight slipped through the window like a blessing. Mama Nuru stood up slowly and placed her hands on both their shoulders. Now, she said gently, my heart can rest. My son has found the woman who sees with love, not with eyes. Baraka smiled through tears. Thank you, mother, he whispered. You have given me more than sight. You have given me hope. Asha looked at Mama Nuru and said softly, You gave me a family when I least expected it. The three of them sat together, their hearts tied by truth and love. The secret had been revealed, but instead of breaking them apart, it had brought them closer than ever. That night, as the stars shone above Makuru, Mama Nuru prayed quietly before bed. Thank you, Lord, she whispered, for showing me that love still lives in this world, and for letting me see it with my own eyes before I close them forever. The morning of the wedding came quietly, with soft sunlight falling through the trees and birds singing as if they knew a beautiful story was about to begin. The air was fresh, filled with the scent of flowers from the small garden behind Baraka's house. It was not a grand wedding, no crowd, no gold, no loud music. But it was full of peace, truth, and love, the kind of love that did not need to be seen to be believed. Baraka stood in the garden, dressed in a simple white shirt. His eyes could not see the beauty around him, but his heart could feel it. The warmth of the sun, the soft sound of Asha's footsteps, and the quiet joy that filled the air. When Asha walked toward him in her modest dress, everyone turned to look at her. She was not covered in jewels or silk, but her smile shone brighter than anything gold could buy. Mama Nuru sat nearby, her eyes full of tears, not of sadness but of deep joy. She had dreamed of this day for many years, though she had feared it would never come. She had watched her son lose his sight and his hope, and now she was seeing him smile again, standing beside a woman who had brought light back into his life. The priest began the ceremony with gentle words. Love, he said, is not about what we see but about what we feel in our hearts. Baraka listened carefully, holding Asha's hands tightly. When it was his turn to speak, his voice was steady but full of emotion. Asha, he said softly, I may not see your face but I see your soul every day. Even without eyes I see your heart clearly. You are my light, my comfort and my guide. You taught me that real sight comes from love. Asha smiled, her eyes wet with tears. Baraka, she said, you may not see me with your eyes, but you have seen me better than anyone else. You saw my heart when others only saw my poverty. You gave me respect when I had nothing. I promise to stand beside you in light and darkness, in laughter and in tears. The garden fell silent. Even the wind seemed to stop to listen. Mama Nuru wiped her eyes and whispered to herself, Now my son can truly see. When the priest declared them husband and wife, Baraka reached forward and found Asha's face with his hands. He smiled and said, This is how I see you with my heart. Then he kissed her gently and everyone clapped and cheered. After the ceremony, they danced together on the grass. There was no music but the sound of joy, laughter, hand claps, and birds singing above them. Mama Nuru joined in, clapping her hands and thanking God for blessing her son. Her heart was light. She had tested Asha's kindness once out of fear, but now she knew she had found not just a kind woman, but a true daughter. When the sun began to set, they sat together under a tree. The golden light touched their faces and Baraka said, Asha, I once thought my blindness was a curse, but now I know it brought me the greatest gift, you. Asha smiled and rested her head on his shoulder. And I once thought poverty was my punishment, she said softly, but it led me to kindness and kindness led me to you. Mama Nuru listened quietly, her heart swelling with pride. She had seen how both of them had changed, how pain had shaped them into gentle, humble souls. That night she cooked a small meal with her own hands, rice, vegetables and sweet fruit, and they ate together as a family. It was the simplest feast, but it felt like a celebration of heaven. Days turned into weeks, and life in Baraka's house changed completely. Laughter filled every corner, and kindness became their daily language. They did not live for wealth anymore. Instead, they used it to help others. One morning, Asha said, "Baraka, do you remember the poor children we saw begging near the market? We should help them." Baraka nodded. "Yes, my love. Let us give them what we can, food, books, and a place to learn." And so, together they started a small foundation in the town. They called it the House of Light. It became a place where poor families could come for help, food for the hungry, medicine for the sick, and education for children. Baraka and Asha worked side by side, never asking for thanks or praise. Sometimes, Baraka would sit with blind children and tell them stories. "Do not fear darkness," he would say with a gentle smile. "Sometimes, it helps us see what really matters." Asha, on the other hand, taught young girls to read and encouraged them never to give up, no matter how poor they were. People in the town began to talk about them with love and respect. They said, "Baraka and Asha are a blessing. Their hearts shine brighter than the sun." And every time someone said that, Mama Nuru would smile quietly and thank God for the path that had brought them all together. Years passed, but their love never faded. Every morning, Baraka would reach for Asha's hand and say, "I still see your heart." And she would reply, "And I still see your strength." One evening, as they sat outside watching the stars, Asha said, "Baraka, do you ever wish you could see again?" He thought for a moment and then shook his head slowly. "No," he said. "If I could see, I might not have learned how to feel. My blindness taught me the meaning of love, and it showed me your soul. I would not trade that for sight." Asha smiled and held his hand tighter. The stars shone above them, and the night breeze carried the sound of children laughing in the distance. The children they had helped, the lives they had changed. Mama Nuru watched them from the doorway, her heart full and peaceful. She knew her work in this world was done. She had found the truth she was looking for, that love is stronger than sight, and kindness can heal even the deepest wounds. When she finally closed her eyes that night, she did so with a smile, whispering a prayer of thanks. Baraka and Asha continued her dream, carrying her lessons forward, to live simply, to love deeply, and to give freely. Their story became a legend in the town, the tale of a blind man who saw with his heart and a poor woman who loved beyond sight. And whenever people spoke of them, they always ended with the same words. True love does not need eyes, only a heart that can see.